All right, Krystal, what's on your radar?
So here's the basic deal Joe Biden has made with affluent suburban voters. Back me, and you can go back to not having to think about politics. As friend of the show, Irami Ose from Pung points out, it's the ethos embodied by this sign. These people don't want to have to be bothered with all this protesting. They have no interest in engaging in the ongoing struggle for justice. They just want to get back to brunch, where they can be served by an increasingly trod upon working class who are themselves praying that brunch will end with a big enough tip that they can make rent. That Biden pitch has become even more compelling here at the outset of the coronavirus pandemic, when the immediate crisis looms large and the pain of the affluent literally amounts to just wanting to be able to go to brunch again. They're asking themselves right now, what is the fastest and least radical way to just get back to that brunch? Biden-style Democrats just want to give enough health care to stem the crisis so that the special flowers aren't impacted, enough worker relief to say that they did something. Think of the insanity of believing it's just necessary to provide funds to treat one disease, but not another. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. You tested negative for coronavirus. Your pneumonia was caused by a different virus, which means you now owe us thousands of dollars for your respirator use. Have a nice day, and better luck next time contracting a more politically convenient illness. Think of the insanity of believing that it is remotely acceptable or sustainable to survive every day in an economy where workers are so stretched thin and lacking in any kind of cushion or safety net that even a week worth of missed work can send them careening into financial misery. 41% of households cannot cover a $400 emergency. Now, centrists tell populists to be reasonable and pragmatic in their views. In a crisis like we're facing now, it becomes all too clear that such a situation is not remotely rational. That the reality is this blissful ability to ignore the impending collapse caused by the current crisis, laid on top of a morally bankrupt economic system, will not last long. At some point, not long from now, even those who just want to get back to normal are going to realize that more radical solutions are the only way anyone's getting back to brunch anytime soon. Unless, of course, you like your eggs Benedict served with the side of pitchfork. For us risers, of course, it's already clear that now is the time to not just respond to the present moment, but to build the kind of durable society that won't be sent into cascading multi-decade misery by an economic shock. Now, obviously, this crisis reveals the absolute necessity of a universal health care system. But there's another essential solution that next to no one, including Bernie, has really brought up. It's time to reach back to the New Deal playbook and create a modern-day works progress administration. This reality is that while bars and restaurants and theaters, so much of our service sector is literally shut down, leaving millions of workers in the lurch, there is in fact a lot of work to be done right now. Not make work, but real essential work to keep our communities safe and healthy. To start with, we need a national surge of community health workers who can help with basic tasks that overwhelm medical facilities. We need people shopping for and checking in on our elders. We need people manning hotlines to help people know what to do and where to go. We need someone to watch the children of essential personnel who must still work on the front lines even as schools and daycares shut down. Now, some of this work would have market value, but honestly, much of it does not. That doesn't make it any less important, critical, in fact. A massive surge of care workers will not only help our communities survive, but will obviously be hugely beneficial for the workers who participate. They can serve, forge new community bonds, provide for themselves and their families. That's to say nothing of the now obvious need to manufacture our own medicines, medical devices, and other essentials goods here in the U.S. immediately. A direct federal jobs program is not to preclude other interventions, by the way, which I also very much support, like emergency UBI, debt forbearance, and a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures. But a new WPA, like Medicare for All, is a project not just for the crisis, but for a more durable future. It's an effort to place value on the necessary work of our society that goes either underpaid or not paid at all. So that unlike the last crisis, when out of the ashes we constructed a more precarious, less equal, less just society, maybe this time we can do things different. If we're willing to fight and pressure and play hardball, perhaps this time we can build universal goods like healthcare, jobs, and decent wages. Is it pie in the sky? Well, maybe. But it seems a whole hell of a lot more realistic than the upheaval and disaster we're currently living. And when our working class is thriving with decent paid, meaningful work, maybe, just maybe, every once in a while, they too can have brunch be the worst of their problems.
I think that's such a good point, Krystal, that you brought from Irami, who, by the way, I really like, and I hope everybody go and subscribes to his show, which is that the narcissism of the I wish we could be at brunch culture that permeates so much of the professional left and frankly the professional right is that they just want everything to keep going, all the money in the gig flow to keep flowing up so that their lives can continue as on. But what we're seeing right now is that we cannot afford to continue in such a situation. That's where we are. I mean, you're seeing already the impacts. I was just looking at restaurants. I mean, the impact right now is that they have some of the best and richest restaurants, the best restaurants in DC, immediately lay off staff. Because as you know, that business, so many other businesses are day by day cash on hand operations. They barely have any lines of credit. And if they do, they use it to buy food. And who suffers? These are real people. These are people who don't have access to their tips. They have no food. I mean, they have no work. They're not going to be able to pay their rent. We're basically creating the conditions so that people can't even go have brunch in the future. I mean, that is how bad things are going to get, is that your server, we need to make sure that people can survive the ensuing crisis so that we can at least go back to a semi-normal life in the future.
And what these, let's just get back to brunch type people don't realize is that the working class has long been in crisis. This makes everything worse. It brings it to the surface. It makes it so you cannot possibly ignore it and just have your, your martini or whatever, or your Bloody Mary in the morning. You have to actually deal with it. And that's actually what they want, is to not have to think about politics. It's their same real objection to the Trump era, right? Is that they have to think about, they don't want to be out there protesting. They don't want to have to think about politics. They want to just get back to everything being the good life for them and this not all being shoved in their face. And so for them, that's really the piece they want to deal with. What is like the quickest path we can do to get back to everything being normal? But what this exposes is that we can't afford to cut corners the way that we did with the last crisis. We have to, in fact, not only respond to the immediate crisis, but build a more durable situation so that next time when we're inevitably faced with an economic shock, another pandemic, some sort of financial collapse, that we're not going to have workers in such dire straits that they cannot go a single week without getting a paycheck, without being in a really tough situation.
And unfortunately, I mean, this is what I talked about in my radar, which is that I don't know if the political conditions are there, but this is what needs to happen. I like that you brought up the WPA, friend of the show, Michael Lind. He actually has been floated this proposal to create something called the Health Finance Corporation, which just goes off the Reconstruction Finance Corporation from the FDR, the New Deal era. And what that would do is it could be capitalized with hundreds of billions of dollars. And instead of bureaucracy and means testing and all of this, is it finds critical sectors of the economy that need to be spun up to respond to the crisis, and it injects cash into those areas immediately, and it sets up small loans so that people can have access to credit. I mean, basically, we need to backfill the ability so that businesses and people can respond to this. And at the same time, that was the other key part of the New Deal, is making sure that the workers themselves are bought into the new infrastructure and system that we're working with. But I want to share a funny anecdote. Is I was floating this with some people I know who work on Capitol Hill. They're like, Sagar, I hear you, man, but Congress is just not equipped for that right now. And that's where we are, right? Which is that we're squabbling over a payroll tax. Currently, payroll, which doesn't even going to hit working people.
And it makes you sad because you see other countries that are able to respond, like South Korea, able to get their act together, even France, Spain, whatever you think of this idea, they've nationalized their entire healthcare system so that everyone could just go in, get tested, get treatment, make it happen. They said anyone who has manufacturing capability, get in touch with us so we can manufacture these critical supplies right now. And here we are squabbling over basically amounts to pennies. Meanwhile, you have this massive mismatch between the work people were doing and the work that needs to be done. I mean, that's the thing, is it's not that there's no work that needs to be done. It's just the nature of that work has in an instant changed dramatically in a way that really only the federal government stepping in and helping to provide the skills, helping to provide the connectivity to those new jobs, which again, some of them may not have market value but they are nonetheless essential and critical at this moment. Only a federal government response can really help fill that gap. And like you, I'm not hopeful, but I'm going to keep pushing.
Same here. I mean, that's what this show is all about.
Yep. We're going to have more rising for you right after this.